Hello, everyone. I am so excited to get back to my YouTube channel. It's been over a year and things were just like crazy. And so kind of had to take a step back a little bit, but I'm so excited to get back into it. First show that we're going to kind of talk through is creative strategies. If you follow me on Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you'll kind of see with the direct to consumer D2C space that creative strategy has been a hot topic lately. And I think what's so interesting about this is that creative strategy has obviously been around for a while. I think just more brands and more companies are really starting to hone in on what exactly creative strategy is and why it's needed for paid performance. So what is creative strategy? So creative strategy by definition is a creative strategist is a marketing professional who focuses on improving a company's overall marketing and advertising plans. Although the creative strategist may also assist and offer opinions on individual ads or campaigns, their primary focus is setting the company's overarching strategy. So literally that is the definition of a creative strategist. Seems pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like as we've kind of shifted into this new era of paid performance, after the iOS 14 update, I think the creative strategy and media buyer and designer and everything has just kind of slowly like morphed into one thing. And really a creative strategist is something that, or someone you need to have on the team that specifically focuses just on the creative strategy. So why is creative strategy so important after iOS 14 update? I think the biggest thing that I've seen is that paid performance is in ad creative is not something that you can necessarily just, pre iOS 14, everyone was able to kind of test and throw a bunch of things into the ad account and just things would work. Like there wasn't, it was just throw it at the wall and hopefully it'll stick. Well, after the iOS 14 update, a lot of things have changed, obviously, that we all know within the marketing space of you can't just do that anymore. Like there actually has to be some sort of reasoning to why things, function the way that they do. So the main purpose of a creative strategist is to research your consumer, research the brand, research competitors. What are the trends that are happening within the space? What are the competitors doing? Basically just the research and essentially come up with a plan and a strategy to give to your creative team in order to execute on that strategy. So what I like to think of is that if you have a brand and you have had this brand guideline, you have this demographic, you've taken the time, to quote unquote do the research on who your customer actually is, iOS 14 update, it seems like who that person was prior is not the same person now. And so I think the things that a creative strategist has to do is they need to understand, where that has shifted, where that person is in their life. Humans and human beings and shopping behavior and consumers, everything changes and shifts with how the culture is actually, functioning. I think that a lot of it is really, consumer-based behavior it shifts with the times, it shifts with the culture, it shifts with social media. So really having someone dedicated to that, side of the business is super beneficial for a brand or an agency. As owners of agencies, as owners of brands, like you just don't have time to be up on every trend. You don't have time to be up on every platform. So that's what that creative strategist does. They help you streamline things so that you're on top of things, on top of what's performing, on top of what the next thing is. You're just always one step ahead for your brand and your competitors. So going back to what I was saying with the demographic, now in order to sell on the paid performance side and on creative, truthfully, is that you need to understand who your actual demographic is. So it's really honing in on who is actually purchasing your product. Where are they at in their life stage? Where are they at everything like business, finance, life? Are they married? Are they not married? Where do they shop? Like, again, this all seems like information that we should already know, which we technically should, but it's not so broad anymore. I feel like there is a lot of information that you can have when you are testing within your group age categories. Let's say you have a 20 to 30, 20 to 35-year-old, and you're discussing a product or a brand. You're going to talk to that 20-year-old differently than you're going to talk to that 35-year-old. When you're 20, you just don't have the income, you don't have, the buying power that you want, that a 35-year-old has. Granted, a lot of 20-year-olds are much more savvy with their money than, I was at 20. But as far as like the income level, like it's just not quite as there as a 35-year-old. So you can have your age demographic or your prospecting or, whatever you're talking to within that creative, but making sure that you're having a creative strategy where you're essentially breaking it down to kind of like the super low, age range all the way up to the 35 age range. Like you can adjust your copy, you can, adjust your creative. There's different ways of making iterations on these things so that you're basically talking to that whole age group. Again, I think it's something that, is super valuable, super important. And it really just helps understand like who your consumer is at this level. So I kind of just want to break it down. Obviously, like I could go into, hours of talking about creative strategy, which I, kind of want to just start this conversation and really dive deeper into it. But what is the difference between like a media buyer, creative strategist, and then obviously a creative, which I am on the creative strategy side? So I feel like a lot of the media buyers nowadays have been kind of forced and pushed into this, you're a media buyer, now you need to be a creative strategist, which yes, that can very well happen. And yes, they could definitely do it. But media buyers or some of the media buyers I know don't necessarily want to be that creative strategist. I think if you have a designer on your team, or if you are outsourcing creative or creative strategy to someone like me, I think making sure that when you're hiring a creative strategist, one, they understand the data. So how you're talking to people, they could actually go into a Facebook ad account, TikTok ad account, just go into the ad accounts, understand what, each of the levers are that you're pulling on. Like what does everything mean within the ad account, and how do you talk to those things? How do you iterate? How do you, improve performance on those? And then someone who understands design, and specifically designing for like direct to consumer performance creative. I think those are things that are just super beneficial to have and to understand. And making sure that if a media buyer is going into the creative strategy side, that they understand creative. Being a designer myself, I've been designing for 16 years, and there are a lot of nuances as a designer that like you have to understand design. You have to understand design theory. You have to understand the way that you design in a way to get someone to a landing page or to click on a website or, whatever. Like there's so many factors that go into the design aspect of it, how to pull the right images, or how to pull the right video, or what exactly is that person on UGC talking about in order to make it beneficial. Like these are things that are super important, and just making sure that someone on the creative strategy side can talk strategy, but also talk to your designers. I work with my designers on my team, and as a designer myself, I understand how to translate what I'm talking about on the strategy side and convey that to my designers so that when they execute on the design, they understand what I'm trying to say to them, and they understand the execution strategy, and they know how to provide that content to our clients to make sure that things are relevant and that they move forward. So again, I'm not going to get like super into the weeds on this. I just, this was my first one back, and I really wanted to start this conversation. So I'm really excited to be back. If you want more on this, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And I'm going to just be diving into this the next couple weeks, just really honing in on creative strategy, how I look at creative strategy, how I do it, how I, do creative strategy for my clients, and where I think creative strategy is going, and how I think it's going to, really help brands and agencies move forward. If you want to find me, if you want to work with me, go ahead and go onto theloft325.com follow me at the Loft 325, and I'm excited to get things going. Thank you.